Commission meeting will come to order, please. Roll call, City Clerk.
Commissioner Abraham.
Present.
Commissioner Galt.
Present.
Commissioner Rhodes.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
Present.
Mayor Kaler.
Present. Tonight, Commissioner Abraham will do the invocation for us. Thank you. And our Pledge of Allegiance will be led tonight by Lucas Reed. Lucas is a Paducah Tillman High School senior. So as soon as we have the invocation, come on up, Lucas. And let's start with our invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for today. I trust that we will continue, or if we're not doing it, try to reflect your character. That being loving the people that we meet because they deserve to be loved, not because of what they can do for us, but that is what we are charged to do, love one another. These things we ask in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to its republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lucas. City Manager, any additions or deletions?
There are none.
Okay, I have a couple of proclamations tonight before we get started, and the first one is Greg Cherry here tonight?
No, I'm hearing it.
Steve, you're going to receive it?
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas Paducah's continuing efforts to address the critical issues of safety, energy efficiency, water conservation, and resilience in the built environment that affects our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster, give us confidence that our structures are safe and sound. And whereas our confidence is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, laborers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And these guardians, dedicated members of the International Code Council, use a government consensus process that brings together local, state, and federal officials with expertise in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes and to protect Americans in the buildings where we live, learn, work, worship, play. And whereas the international codes, the most widely adopted building safety, engineer, energy, and fire prevention codes in the nation, are used by most U.S. cities, counties, and states. These modern building codes are also include safeguards to protect the public from natural disasters such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of communities, largely unknown guardians of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, efficient, and livable buildings. Whereas resilient communities start with the building codes, the theme for Building Safety Month 2015 encourages all Americans to raise awareness of the importance of building safe and resilient construction, fire prevention, disaster mitigation, water safety and conservation, energy efficiency, and new technology in construction industry. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider projects to improve building safety and sustainability at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential services provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, I, Gail Kaler, Mayor of Paducah, Kentucky, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2015 as Building Safety Month, and I encourage all citizens to join with their communities to participate in Building Safety Month. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one quick comment about that. There was a lot to that, and I think our staff, you could highlight it by they do see themselves as the guardians for the public, and there's three words in there that really key is safe, efficient, and livable. That's our goal for our community and help make sure our community is sustainable in the long term. So we want the community to be safe. We want folks to enjoy their environment for a long time, and we see ourselves as the guardians of that and to make our community safe. So thank you very much for that recognition.
Thank you, Steve. And Fowler, if you'll come forward, I have a proclamation. To all to whom these presents shall come, whereas tourism is a major industry in the United States, generating millions of jobs and playing a significant role in the American economy. And whereas likewise tourism in Kentucky supports nearly 180,000 jobs and adds more than $13 billion a year to our state's economy. And whereas Kentucky is known for its natural beauty and boasts many great tourism destinations which attract millions of visitors from around the world. And whereas Kentucky and its communities are working to attract even more visitors through such efforts as adventure tourism, heritage and cultural tourism, culinary tourism, agritourism, meetings and conventions, and major sporting events, and whereas travel in Kentucky is an adventure and promotes family bonding, but more than just fun, it's serious business, creating jobs and playing an essential role in our economy and our lives. Now, therefore, I, Gail Kaler, Mayor of the City of Paducah, Kentucky, do hereby proclaim May 2nd through the 10th, 2015, as Travel and Tourism Week in Paducah and encourage citizens to recognize the many benefits that tourism provides to both our city and our state as a whole. Thank you, Fowler.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do you have anything you'd like to share? Thank you. Thank you for the great job you do at CPP.
Just as a follow-up to that, and May possibly being a full tourism month, I just want to announce that Brooks Stadium, not next week, but the next, will be hosting a World Series of club baseball. And the field of teams were just announced yesterday, and I just want to let you know that we will have visitors to our city via a sporting event. And here are the list of qualifying teams: Penn State University, East Carolina University, Florida State University, University of Illinois, Iowa State University, University of Texas, University of Oregon, and Arizona State University. And these 8 teams will be playing each other at Brooks Stadium for the duration of a week. And each it is a double elimination tournament, and I encourage all of us to come out and see what we have in our own backyard and enjoy some college baseball from competitive teams from across the nation. Thank you all.
Brooks Stadium is a beautiful place, too.
Indeed. And that is May 22nd through the 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to quickly call Rosemarie Steele forward. She has someone to introduce to us tonight.
Mayor and Commissioners, thank you for letting me come before you this evening. My purpose is actually twofold. First, I'd like to thank you for your support. On behalf of PAA, I would like to thank you for your support of the Artist in Residence program. Since 2008, PAA has hosted nearly 40 artists, and they've come from 13 states and 7 countries that include Russia, Bulgaria, Italy, Austria, Canada, Switzerland, and now Sweden. So prior to the quilt show, at a previous commission meeting, you all met Sandro T. Berry, and he was our first artist in residence from a fellow UNESCO creative city. He described his experience here in Paducah as life-changing, and we're sure that we're going to be seeing a delegation from Fabriano visiting Paducah in the near future. And then following the quilt show, we hosted Jim Morris, and Jim came very quietly just to work, not to focus on his artwork. He is a professor in the art department Management at the college at Brockport, and it's a state university college in New York. His hometown is Batavia, New York, which has a population of 20,000. And he is on the Arts Council in Batavia, and he's very much interested in Paducah's cultural rebirth. And he kept looking around and asking, how did all of this happen? And wasn't sure if he was talking about the artist relocation program or, just the whole UNESCO program or all of it, the artist in residence program. So, Mayor, as you know, I prepared and submitted Paducah's cultural profile for the Americans for the Arts, and I shared that document with Jim, and he's going to take it back to his community. And the purpose of that document was for mayors and other communities to know how Paducah progressed through, the downtown revitalization to where we are today. So the second purpose of my being here is to put another face to our Artist in Residence program. Maria, would you come forward? I'd like to introduce you to Maria Safronova. She is a Russian-born artist. She came from Moscow, but she's currently living in Stockholm, Sweden, with her husband, who is a documentary film artist. Maria?
Hello everyone. I would like to thank you for having me here in Paducah. This is absolutely wonderful experience to be part of the residency program, but also observe such an amazing gentrification project. This is absolute rarity. I've never seen anything like that before, so thank you for creating this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And will you be here for the art?
Yes, I will be here for a month, and I hopefully will create a project, collaborative project with some of the artists from the community. So we probably will have an exhibition in the end, so you are welcome.
Oh, welcome to Paducah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A lot of our artists who are involved in Paducah Arts Alliance are making a lot of international creative connections. Actually, Paul Lorenz did a film in conjunction with Glenn Hall and submitted it to a festival in, where is it? Venice, right, and it coincides with the Venice Biennale. Randy Simmons, who is also on the Paducah Arts Alliance board, is going to Italy this summer as well, bringing 40 students from Kentucky to Italy. So
wonderful.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a presentation tonight on City Hall, and Mr. James Mason and Growth Incorporated has brought Mr. Mason to Paducah. So, hello, Sharon.
Hello,
how are
Mayor
you?
Kaler. How are you?
Good.
Hello to all of you.
Hey.
I'm here tonight as a representative of the Growth Incorporated Board. There are several of our board members here this evening. If you'll just wag your hands for a minute. Growth Incorporated's been around looking out and looking forward for Paducah for a long time. We had some discussions last summer after you all had a really good presentation that you all commissioned, given by Oliver Backus, where you really brought together some of the top folks in Paducah to look at the condition of City Hall and what could be done if you were thinking about rehabilitating it. As we listened to that presentation, we realized that you all were looking at all of the key things that you typically look at in a renovation. Mechanical, typical architectural things, and looking at some pretty serious structural issues that were here too. And as we listened to the presentation, we realized that a couple of the solutions for the structural things called for tearing off the entire canopy around the City Hall, tearing off 50% of the exterior corner walls in order to do some seismic reinforcement. Things that made even folks like me who care about historic buildings and architectural pieces of art concerned about whether it was worthwhile to do anything with this City Hall building or not. After some discussions with other Growth Board members, we decided to ask James Mason to come here and take a look at those two issues. You all were gracious enough to host and agree to him coming to look at those things. And James just has a really brief presentation tonight addressing those two big structural issues related to the City Hall rehabilitation, not things related to that larger picture. So he's going to be looking at the canopy retrofit and some seismic strengthening. I would like to thank you all for your time individually yesterday. I really appreciate you all taking that time as well.
Thank you, Sharon, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. It's really a pleasure to be here. I want to go through quickly. I've condensed. We've been working in large committees. We've been having presentations for over an hour, so I'm condensing an hour's worth of work into about 15 minutes worth of slides. So I want to address the canopy retrofit and seismic strengthening process. I've worked on a lot of historic structures, and one of the things I do whenever I look at one of those, I come back with photographs and I start to assess the levelness and plumbness of structural elements. And when you see a structure and start to assess it in that condition, if you understand the deformation, you can understand the distress. So here's a picture of the corner of the canopy. And I don't have a... here we go. So the way that I assess distress to a structure is I come in and take a straight line and project it out. And what we want to note here is that the canopy starts to deflect from about here out. And this is moving down, and it's also rotating. So the canopy itself is deflecting about 5 inches, and definitely has structural issues. There is a definite reason why this canopy is going through this distress. This is a plan view, a top view of the column and associated roof beams around the canopy. So the center part of this, right in here, is the column. The dashed lines are the outside of the beams, and the solid lines, the solid black lines, are the reinforcement steel. This structural section calls attention that there is a definite issue in the original design of this building, and the effort would be going back into that structure and reconstructing the original intent for the building so that the canopy could become stable. The way that we see that is in these areas right here where the steel actually ends. That is just in the worst place that could have ever happened. It was never intended as a structural engineer to do that. And the intent of the retrofit that I'm proposing is to reconstruct those zones so that it becomes self-supporting. When we look at a section of the building, we see here we are, there's the mayor's office. Here we are down in the basement. Here's a column coming up supporting the canopy. And then we see the deflection coming out at the edge of the canopy. The deflection at the corners is roughly 8 inches. In other areas, it's between 2 to 5 inches in deflection. One of the things that's holding this thing together right now is this edge beam. This runs around the complete canopy, and it's this detail, in fact, where I think it's been saving you a large headache for the structure. It has continuous steel. It has continuous steel all the way around the structure. This is the outside of that edge beam, and these bars right here are what are restraining that edge from actually falling off. In terms of fixing the structure, we need to go into all of the beams and put in reinforcing steel over those beams so that it reconnects everything and it again becomes self-supporting. The red lines represent the general outline of those patterns to reconstruct those beams. I've been working with a company on other projects in the United States, up in the Northeast, and that is the Structural Group. The Structural Group, just to let you know, they are the premier concrete restoration company in the country. They've worked on the White House, the Washington Monument, numerous structures around the country again. And I've worked with them on other historic structures in my profession, my jobs. Here's a job that they did that is so similar to the Paducah job. It's surprising. There was a building that was built. There was a problem in the original design where they left out steel, and they came back in and retrofit this and put these beams on top of the original roof slab and then recreated a deep section beam that restrained that slab and that edge beam from deflection. More importantly, they were the ones that retrofit the falling water structure. So at the time that Edward Durrell Stone, the architect of this building, was designing, he was the other gentleman in the architectural world that were the go-to architects. That was Frank Lloyd Wright and Edward Durrell Stone. So we're talking about two very famous architects here. Falling water was having an issue where the deck was deflecting 7 inches down at the outer edge. As much as Frank Lloyd Wright was a great architect, he was a very poor engineer. And he put in the steel in the wrong place. And it was the structural group that went in and actually retrofit this structure with the same methodology that we would be using here. So they created these beams here. And then when you pull on this beam in this configuration, this is a high-strength bolt. It's a high-strength tendon. When you pull on that, it actually lifts the outer edge. They lifted that a ½ inch. It took 400,000 pounds force. We would not do that here. We would just fix the structure so it would stay in its current state. Excuse me. And then they also went in and fixed the corners of the deck. So that would be like the corner of the canopy and then at the edges. But this is the technology that we would use to fix the canopy. I was also asked to look at seismic strengthening. This is an area that I've worked in for quite a while. I designed bridges in California. And I'm bringing a technology here that we used on the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge for the alternative design. And that technology is base isolation. What you do is you physically decouple the structure from the ground. And this building in particular is a perfect candidate for this technology. If you go look at the FEMA 356 seismic rehabilitation of buildings, they have a checklist of items in there that list out historic structure, critical structure, able to move laterally at the ground. All these things, this building fits for being a structure that would go through base isolation. The idea is that you go in, and if you look at this red line right there, called the line of decoupling, literally you cut the building loose at the top of column level in the basement and then install these base isolators. And then you would decouple the existing walls on the basement wall edges also out in this zone. And I'll show you what those base isolators look like in just a minute. The other thing to note here is that in doing this work, all the work would be done in the basement. No work would be done above ground. You wouldn't see any of that sort of work. Everything's would be done in the basement. Now, in comparison, you look at what's been proposed, what are called shear wall panels, and that's the proposal that's been put forward already. And that work necessarily starts at the roof line, goes down through the floors, all the way down and into the cellar, and then we would cast in and put in new foundations all the way around the building, all 4 corners. It exposes over 50% of the building to outside environment. Everyone would have to move during the construction. It would be a totally different process, absolutely, and I'll show you some of the comparatives of that in a minute. For those not familiar with base isolation, I put up this slide to show you, here's a 3-story building that gets ground shaking. The building deforms and cracks, and it gets loaded by the same ground acceleration, and then you get an associated whipping action as you go further up in the building. With base isolation, that's the slide right here, you have compliant lead rubber isolators that are easily moved laterally, and then the building then is not shaken by the ground. You actually decouple those two motions. The other benefit you get out of this is that then the building above that would, in an earthquake, moves as a rigid unit, and it's out of phase from the ground. So you won't have items flying off the walls It lessens the load by over 60 to 70% in terms of base shear, and this building would be able to sustain that kind of loading. The other thing that happens with base isolation structures is that those kinds of buildings have been used and converted in numerous cities around the country into emergency command centers, so that this structure can facilitate your emergency services and the command of those post-earthquake. You'd have all those services still here. Just a quick picture of what that sort of looks like. Here's a building that was retrofit. This is the main floor beam up here. Here's a seismically designed column, and here's this device called a lead rubber isolator. Those would be put in around the structure. There are 64 columns that would get retrofit here with the isolator at the top. This is the podium deck out here, and this is the first floor over here. And then you have carbon fiber wrap to improve the seismic performance of the columns so that the whole system underneath the isolator is seismic resistant. Those are the technologies that we've looked at in depth, and now I wanted to present some of the numbers we've gone through. I've been, again, working with this contracting firm so that these are real numbers to go in and do this work. The canopy strengthening unto itself would cost $556,000 for all the beams. There would be associated shoring that we would put around the structure. That's $500,000 of work there. And then the spalls that you have are non-structural spalls that you're seeing, with the concrete on the floor. Those are non-structural spalls, and those spalls, we could go around and fix those. We've done that on numerous structures. $40,000 to go in and do that work. So the canopy strengthening unto itself is $1.1 million. In terms of base isolation, again, you have 64 columns. The cost of the isolator, the cost of the shoring and jacking, cutting out the columns, putting that part together for all 64 columns is $1 million. The column wrap is $50 a square foot. You have the columns here. You have 44 12 by 12 columns, 20 18 by 18, and here are the associated costs for doing that. To break loose the building from the perimeter wall at the basement, you have you have 600 linear feet that you've got to cut this thing loose. So there's the associated work of cutting it loose and building in an isolation block underneath, and the cost of that would be $750,000. To support those walls with the earth pressure behind that requires installing tiebacks. Those tiebacks, there'd be 48 of those, and that's $312,000. So the base isolation system, to get it up to speed, is $2.2 million for a total on the canopy and base isolation of $3.3 million. To do a cost comparison between these two systems for the BFW system versus the alternate, we see the canopy BFW is at $2.3 million. The alternate's at 1.1. Seismic upgrade 1.8 versus 2.2, where you have a $4.1 million price tag for the BFW system and a 3.3 for the alternate. This is a very important slide. This slide shows issues not spoken about in the proposals. So when people give you a number, they're not talking about all the issues associated with doing work. So I wanted to go through this because constructability is as important as the baseline and the technology. So let's go through these comparison questions between the two systems, the BFW system and the alternate. Will the building be operational during construction? The BFW system will not. You will have to move out of this building. You will probably be out of this building at least 12 months, if not 16, I would expect. You would have to find a facility to accommodate 50,000 square feet of people, equipment, move equipment. That's the associated cost with doing that. The work that we're proposing, there's no, we will be working and you'll be operational in the building during construction. The general safety during construction, The work that we're proposing is all localized, drill and bond, cutting things. We've done this many times. For the other alternative, we can just look outside the window and get a good idea. Think about trying to demolish that canopy deck right there from the street side with a huge crane, and any sort of issue of something falling, spalling, hitting the podium deck could cause quite a few problems. So that talks about the general safety during construction, then also the survival of the podium deck during construction. The existing landscape, necessarily, the demo of the canopy will require large cranes. They'll have to go around the complete facility. They would be tearing up the lawns. I'm not sure about the safety of the trees, which I love my trees. I'm certain you love your trees. Then the next issue is performance of the canopy during high winds. The proposed method of fixing the canopy is to go in with a steel frame system with lightweight foam, which lacks self-weight enough to resist high winds. So when you would have high winds around here, that deck system, that canopy, could easily get into aerodynamic flutter. And that's where this thing would start to literally beat itself to death. Its performance is highly questionable because of its self-weight. The building interior exposed during construction, the BFW system is going to open up all four corners of the building. Over 50% of the building is going to be open. That would mean that all your paneling here would be exposed, all finishes. You would have outside ambient air coming in. There could be mold growing on things because of the moisture content. It brings up a lot of issues. The costs are comparable for these two systems in terms of the cost. Funding flexibility with the BFW system. Once you start that job, you can't stop. So you've got to have all your funding in place, ready to go when it starts. With this other system, you could start with the roof canopy. You could come in and do HVAC. You could do all these other things. And then ultimately come in and do the seismic. If you wanted to do that, you could do that sort of flexibility. Or you could go in and do everything at once. So I think that's what I wanted to present. Sharon had a few more comments.
Yeah, just a couple of closing comments, and one specifically related to funding flexibility as well. The Bacon Farmer Workman proposal tore away so much of the original building fabric that I think it really shaped you all's consideration of whether it made sense to do this building or not. There was so much loss there. The other thing it did, and I should say that this current proposal keeps a lot of that same building fabric in place. And with that building fabric in place, the work could actually qualify for state historic preservation tax credits, which for the city, and there are definite processes there. There are folks in town who know how to deal with that. But it would probably be around 9 to 10% of your construction, and not just hard costs, but soft costs as well, construction-related costs that could come back to the city through a tax credit and be used for further maintenance over time. And one of the really nice things about that is for governmentally owned buildings, you can keep using that same process over and over to do continued kind of rehab work over time and get a little bit back every year to put toward the next bit of funding. The other thing that I wanted to say here is that there was so much loss with the BFW proposal, and I'm so thrilled that James was able to bring to you all some things that really leave a lot more of the building intact. But I know that these two pieces are only two pieces of a much larger rehabilitation need for this building. I saw in the previous report the condition of the mechanical, the electrical. There are finishes here that are looking pretty outdated. Some of those kinds of things. Given the fact that what James is proposing may actually, in some cases, reduce part of those costs that were assessed as being part of the rehab cost a year ago, as part of that $15 million figure. It may well be that not everything that they anticipated needing to be done because of all of the demolition work that even affected what's happening inside. I would ask you all to consider, while you're looking at new construction and sort of getting better details on new construction costs, to perhaps, and I think some citizens would be glad to work with you, but to have those same professionals here in town look again at some of those figures and see if there might not be other areas of that rehab cost that could also be cut and impacted by this different approach with the seismic and canopy upgrade. And just one other thing real quickly. It's hard to see from here with the lights back on, but this is a section to the Sun Democrat that was put out in February 26, 1965, and giant headlines: New City Hall, a shrine to democracy, magnificent new City Hall. I think it's easy for a lot of us to forget or take this building for granted 50 years after it was built, but one of the articles in one of those special sections talks about how Lee Potter Smith, who was a local architect, rather than designing the City Hall himself, suggested to the city leaders, let's go out and get Edward Durrell Stone to design our city a City Hall building, because we're worth it. They were looking toward the future, and they thought that they deserved a City Hall that was designed by an international architect. Just in case you all don't know, Edward Durrell Stone also designed the JFK Center for Performing Arts in Washington, D.C., and he did a lot of governmental buildings. This happens to be the North Carolina Legislative Building that he did in 1960. So there are actually, I believe, and I know you all have thought about this before, but there are other cultural factors that impact the decision related to this City Hall, as well as those hard dollar costs. I know you guys are in a tough position. I thank you all for looking at the broader picture in a good way, and would welcome, I think Growth Incorporated and other folks in the community would welcome working with you all to maybe look more closely at rehab of the City Hall and see if it could be done in a more feasible, efficient manner. Thank you.
Comments from the commissioners? I think the presentation. I really enjoyed the time that I had with you yesterday, and I said I love engineers. They make life interesting. They really do. It's not boring at all. When you talk about the things that can be done to structures, how they're built, how they're maybe not built correctly, and what you can do to save those buildings. So I think it's something that we definitely can consider. We have a total cost that we have to consider as well, but it's something that we can certainly meet with our groups and look at. But, we do have a limit that we can spend, so it'll all have to come down to the bottom line. But I'm sorry?
I don't know if we know yet.
$8 million. I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just kidding. No, we don't. I mean, we don't have a cost estimate yet on a new building. We have a rough draft, correct, City Manager, on the original estimate to rehabilitate.
Based on projected square footage, and of course all that is subject to a more comprehensive spatial needs analysis and all that sort of stuff to come yet.
Would that study that had previously been done about rehabbing this building need to be adjusted to this type of work to be done with it, instead of what they had originally proposed of removing the canopies?
What
we
was,
need to.
I mean, it's
a comparison of the same thing.
There are two different methods, I think, to achieve the same end, which is to structurally lengthen the life of the building. I mean, they're entirely different. So I suppose if you wanted to do that, we could ask for a refinement of. I don't know that BFW was charged or their scope was to put a great amount of work in that. I think we'd need to review that and make sure that it was done comprehensively. I think also we would want to get some additional information. This is a process that's being proposed here that may or may not work with the city's procurement. It sounds kind of like I guess it's not proprietary, but it's a proposal, and we may need to make that fit to our process. So I'm not sure how we would go about that either. So we'd have to do a little work on both counts, I think.
Well, just comments on the difference in the process. When we met, the presentation that was made initially, that was a process. This is the how you do what City Hall needs as far as stabilization, as far as seismic, and it was somewhat more aggressive than what this new proposal is. And I think one of the things that I got out of our meeting, just covering those two issues, and there are other issues with this building other than the canopy stabilization and the seismic issues. But this building is relatively stiff, and I say that because of the what the Mr. Mason we talked about, and I relate that to an athlete. You know, you have an athlete that's more flexible. The chances of pulled muscles or teared ligaments are not as on the forefront, as opposed to an athlete that is stiff. This building, you build to seismic codes, hoping that you don't have to use those. But we live where we live, and so what appealed to me was the fact that we could go in and retrofit some things without being as aggressive. Taking some things away, and again, that only covers a couple of issues that we have. But now's the time to look at those other options, and then going with what the city manager said, looking at that and really trying to fit that into what we want to do. There is a lot of history in the building, and if we can make this building more functionable without tearing it down, or if we can get in here and make some changes that will, again, make it more functional for what we have to use it for, I think that's the time. Now's the time to look at that. So I welcome that presentation. It's just a different look on doing those two things. So.
Commissioner Galt, did you have something?
Well, my question is, City Manager, how do we address the other things so we are looking at apples to apples? I guess I'm a little confused on how we would go about doing that. Or do you want to think about that?
Well, I guess first question I have, Mr. Mason, would you guarantee your price that you're projecting tonight? Is that a not to exceed, or what more work would you need to do to?
The answer is yes. I worked with this contractor. That's the price they presented to do this work.
Okay.
So no change orders, right?
That needs to be looked at how that fits into what the other work has to be done at City Hall. So it really needs to just
that's
be
my question.
A comparison of the renovation using that technology compared to what we've already been presented.
There's so many other issues with this building we talked about.
Well,
that's what I'm trying to get my head around.
You have the difference between an engineer who took an engineering approach to it and made a recommendation based on an approach and probably did not put the effort into costing it to get it defensible in that same sense as the answer to the question I had from Mr. Mason. So I think we need to ask for some additional work to be done in order to get a good apples to apples, at least price comparison. And then there are the other issues as well.
Okay. All right. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It's just
that's fine.
having a little trouble with that. But in addition to that, I do want to say thank you to Growth for taking the initiative, and we appreciate you always being there and coming forward with new ideas and rattling our chain on occasion. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Well, Mr. Mason also brought up an issue with the heat and air that we might look at as well with the geothermal.
Would you like me to talk about it?
Probably not tonight, but I know you did. You brought that up to all of us, so that's something else that we can look at as well, because the whole heat and air system has to be renovated as well. So, get some more.
Back to getting some more information together, or final decisions could be made.
Question. I guess I was led in following your progress toward making a decision and looked as though it was aimed at a new building, that a request for proposals from architecture firms was imminent, is what it looked like to me.
Qualifications.
That reaching out to the design community to say, give us a proposal for what all the costs would be associated with the demolition, removal, or the replacement of the city hall. Is that still a direction
That was the vote.
Where we're at right now, we have a request for qualifications out right now. That it's kind of a two-step. That it would be narrowed down, then the proposal would come, and then a selection, and then, of course, the work.
So within your vote, was it not only to take the request for qualifications, but also to then solicit requests for proposal? Or is it merely to request qualifications and interest?
Well, I thought it was for us to know how much a new city hall would cost. We really don't have that estimate.
No, we don't have a design or anything.
Well, I guess
It all depends on your design and.
Working in that profession, that's not what I saw the ask for. And I may be wrong. But a request for qualifications from design professionals typically will lead to a hiring prior to a costing. And they would be being hired for a specific project, not an either or.
So you wouldn't know how much a city, if we didn't do that steps, though, we wouldn't know how much a new city hall would cost, right? You just have an estimate?
That's not the first thing that you, I mean, it's your process. If I'm misspeaking, please.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Saying that when you ask for a request for qualifications, firms will respond showing you their professional qualifications, their local liaisons,
Right.
their consulting engineers, and then that would be followed by typically a series of interviews in which you would decide who you want to marry for design. And then that would lead to consummating that with a contract, all of which takes place in advance of a price, of a design or a price, in acquiring professional services. So my concern is that continuing down that path is leading us toward a project that's been predetermined, that is a replacement of City Hall, as opposed to being able to give yourselves the opportunity to take the new information and say, is that in fact what we're absolutely committed to as a community? Tearing down our City Hall and replacing it with something different.
Well, Chris, that was what we voted on, but now that Mr. Mason and Growth has brought this to us, we have to stop and take a breath and look at, what he has brought forward to us. Do we want to look at this in a different light? So I think that's where we are right now.
That's my question.
Right.
Is your RFP a process that is
Interruptible?
Can you delay it? Can you protract it?
Can you interrupt it?
Hold off on completing.
Yeah, no one has a gun to our head on that.
We can do that.
And I think there's also, Chris, the whole idea that we really established, be it new or redo, if it's new, do we have the right size yet?
Well,
so I'm saying, I guess for me personally, that there are a lot of balls in the air. That help you?
well, it does, and I mean, the bigger ball that's in the air to me lines up with us recognizing Rosemary's work, recognizing Greg Cherry's work, our creative cities, and what we're in possession of relative to how we view our community moving forward. There's a whole other philosophical issue here that has not been vetted entirely.
Well, I don't think we're tied to any decision, Mr. Black. I don't think so. And a matter of fact, I like this process. There's a lot of stakeholders here, and to get their input that very professionally done. I think we would be remiss not to look at this in a different light. So we're not tied to anything at this point.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
By the way, good job. And you explained RFQ and RFP exactly the way it was explained to me. So you did a good job. You must have something to do with the construction business. Thanks, Chris.
Darwin, did you want to say something tonight?
Yeah, I may come up here. My name is Derwin Ursery. I live in Paducah for the last 9 or 10 years. And I'm interested in a little different track here. I think this has been a great presentation. My interest is community decision making. And that's what I see in action here, community decision making. And to do that, we have to take the value, and maybe these are little soft-edged words, but they are part of the whole thing. Value with being conscious of design. And when you look at value of something, there are two models that I would think about. One is commodity business model, where you look at price and control and the physical process of getting something. A value model is what can you get that you couldn't get otherwise. And the best way is to have a dialogue that integrates those two things. So where I'm going with this is thinking of value, we think of the city of Paducah and downtown. Designated historical buildings have a value and have a worth. Part of an architect's job is to express value in its buildings, its cultural value. That's what happened in the mid-'60s. That's what happened with this building. So it has value, it has worth. If historical buildings, designated places, don't have value, then we should just tear them down. But if they have value, then we should find a way to accommodate cost with value. And people come to Paducah, Paducahans come downtown because these old buildings have some value. They have some worth that's not just dollars and cents. So what I'd like to do is to say that you need to somehow bring that into the equation. And as a last thought, it strikes me as kind of odd, and I'm very pleased to hear the decision has not been made, because the information on the street is sort of, it's a done deal. We want to move on, we're going to tear it down and move on. Now that's second, third-hand information, but I'm very pleased to hear it otherwise. Because if you've made that decision, you're saying to people on Broadway, fix up your building, save your building, put a lot of money in it, but we're going to tear our building down. It doesn't have any worth. That's basically the bottom line there when you pursue that tack. So to me, this is a wonderful building, a unique building. You'll never get this kind of building again, this kind of space, these materials. I mean, this is exceptional. And if you want to spend that kind of money, you're going to be way up there in the budget. So I appreciate this moment. I'm pleased we're in a community decision-making situation, and I applaud you for that. And I certainly applaud Mr. Mason and all the others, because there's really more than dollars and cents here. It's really more value to this community and to the future of this community to think about all of the community, all of the places and the buildings. And it's really people and ideas is the real asset. And that's what I attributed this to. It's not buildings and mortar and stone, it's people and ideas. So I'm very pleased you're listening to ideas. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I'm very glad to hear this tonight, and we have some people in the audience, Chris, that I'm sure can work with us and help us keep the cost down if we decide the plan is to renovate the building. We will have to have lots of help from talented people that can help us keep our cost in line, because we do not have unlimited money to do anything in the city. So, that is a big factor. But I'm sure you know ways that we can save money in this, and I think we'll be calling on people like you to help us with that.
Well, it's a natural project to allow you to extend the expenditure over a period of time as opposed to it all having capital outlay in one moment. We have to bond the money for any big project like this, and you really need to do that bonding all at one time, especially now while money's cheap. That's a choice.
Yeah, because in the future, where would we get that extra money? We'd have to do another bond issue. So, that's the way I feel about it. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I think it's money better spent. And I did talk to Mr. Mason about that as well, to do the whole project at one time. If we had a big bank account, we could just write a check in 5 or 6 years for the rest of it, had that fund set up. So those are some things we'll have to talk about as well. But thank you all. I'm sure you'll be willing to give us lots of input and help.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Abraham, you have the minutes?
I do. I move that the reading of the minutes for the April 28, 2015 and May 5th, 2015 City Commission meeting be waived, and that the minutes of said meetings prepared by the city clerk be approved as written.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham,
Aye.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kaler.
Aye. We've got some appointments tonight. Whereas subject to the approval of the Board of Commissioners, I hereby appoint Jill Jones and Monica Filer to the Civic Beautification Board to replace Alberta Davis and Anita Stamper. These terms will expire July 1st, 2018 and July 1st, 2019, respectively.
I move that the Board of Commissioners approve the action of Mayor Kaler in appointing Jill Jones and Monica Filer as members of the Civic Beautification Board.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham,
Aye.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kaler.
Aye. Whereas subject to the approval of the Board of Commissioners, I hereby appoint Calvin Shanks as a member to the Paducah-McCracken County Urban Renewal and Community Development Agency to fill the unexpired term of Buford Wilson, who has resigned. This term will expire February 23rd, 2016.
I move that the Board of Commissioners approve an action of Mayor Kaler in appointing Calvin Shanks as a member of the Paducah-McCracken County Urban Renewal and Community Development Agency.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham,
Aye.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kaler.
Aye. Under motion, Commissioner Wilson, please.
I move that the following documents and bids be received and filed. Certificate of liability insurance for Linwood Chrysler Dodge Hyundai Linwood Motors. Commissioner's deeds, 626 South 12th Street, 634 South 12th Street, 1115 Ohio Street, 2315 Powell Street, 1320 Oscar Cross Avenue, and 1016 South 5th Street. Contracts and agreements, purchase agreement with Catherine Anderson Knotts for 717 Harrison Street, sublease between Siemens Church Institute of New York and American Bureau of Shipping for real property located at the northwest intersection of Kentucky Avenue and South Water Street. Agreement with Linwood Motors for a 1/2-ton pickup truck for use by the fire department. Contract for services with the Paducah-McCracken County Convention and Visitors Bureau for marketing and promoting for the 2015 American Quilter Society Show. 2-year commercial guarantee loan instrument with Regions Bank for a loan reissued to the Greater Paducah Economic Development Council for the construction of the Information Age Park, and Paducah Waterworks financial highlights for March 31st, 2015. Bids for Engineering Public Works Department, 2015 front loader from McBride Mack and Springfellow with McBride Mack getting the recommended bid. 2015 sidearm refuse truck, McBride Mack, Stringfellow with McBride Mack as the recommended bid. Olivet Church Road Improvement Project competitive negotiation proposals from Jim Smith Contracting Company, LLC, and Harold Coffee Construction Company, Inc., with Jim Smith Contracting Company as the recommended bid.
Second. Nice work.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Kayler?
Aye. Under municipal orders, Commissioner Abraham, please.
Upon the recommendation of the city manager, the Board of Commissioners of the City of Paducah order that the personnel changes on the attached list be approved.
Second.
Steve?
Evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Another busy list with our summer hiring season. A couple of police promotions we're pleased to put through tonight, and a couple of individuals to work part-time temporary on the train project.
Okay. Any questions for Steve? City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Kayler?
Aye. Excuse me. Commissioner Galt, please.
I move that a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Authorizing the Mayor to Execute a Grant Application and All Documents Necessary through the U.S. Department of Homeland Security for a 2015 Port Security Grant in the amount of $36,675 for the Riverfront Video Security Project Phase 2 be adopted."
Second.
I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have some.
No. Yep. I think we discussed that. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
So does Steve on the port security, so does Coast Guard, do they identify, I mean, are we one of their identified targets or prospects for this work, these video cameras?
I'm sorry, would you ask that again?
Well, it just says here in the Port Security Grant Program that it says Port Security Grant Program investments must address Coast Guard identified vulnerabilities in port security and support the prevention, detection, response, and recovery from attacks involving improvised IEDs and other non-conventional weapons. And I don't know if
I think this is a portable surveillance system. If that need arises, that we need to deploy this to some point, then we will be able to in the future.
Okay. But it just seemed like, in reading a little investigation, it seemed like that the Coast Guard has like this master list of sort of approved projects. I just wondered if we...
I'm not aware of that, Commissioner.
Okay. Thanks. I just...
Thank you.
Thought I'd ask.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Kayler?
Aye. Under ordinance adoption, Commissioner Rhodes, please.
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Extending the Boundary of the City of Paducah, Kentucky by intent to annex certain property lying adjacent to the corporate limits of the City of Paducah and defining accurately the boundary of said property to be included within the said corporate limits." This ordinance is summarized as follows. Approving intent to annex certain tracts of property contiguous to the present city limits located at 2675, 2665, 2655, and 2645 Holt Road containing 2.33 acres, more or less.
Second.
Hi, Steve.
Well, I don't believe I was here for the introduction. Obviously, this was an intent to annex ordinance. After this intent is adopted, it'll go to the Planning Commission for a public hearing to assign zoning and then come back to the City Commission for final annexation and final zoning. There'll be approximately 15 to 16,000 square feet of professional office in this building.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Kayler?
Aye. Ordinance is introduction, so we'll have a second reading on these. We don't vote on these tonight. Commissioner Wilson, please.
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Improving an Agreement Between the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and the City of Paducah, Kentucky for Federal Highway Administration funds to be allocated toward the Riverfront Improvement Project Phase 1B and authorizing the mayor to execute same." This ordinance is summarized as follows. The City of Paducah hereby approves an agreement with the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet for reimbursable federal highway funding in the amount of $3,920,000 for the Riverfront Improvement Project Phase 1B and authorizes the mayor to execute said agreement.
Second.
Hi, Rick.
Mayor Commission, we've got the Riverfront Project Phase 1B out on bid or for solicitation, and we'll be opening those bids later this month. Yes. And then from that, we will have an answer on whether or not all the hard work that we've performed will, in fact, be within budget. So we'll know that here pretty soon. This money has kind of been, I guess, laying in wait, I guess, for us to be compliant since 2007. So a little time there. So we're in the 11th hour of getting ready to spend that money if we get some good bids.
And I just want to commend you and Angela and your department and your diligence on the Olivet Church Road project and bringing that in much under the bid amount. Good negotiations.
It's sometimes you want the best project you can deliver for the public, and then sometimes you have to deliver what you're capable of delivering with your finances. So we were able to do that. There will be opportunities in the future for growth and for that as that property changes over time. So I feel really good about what we did. Through the negotiations, we were $1.4 million over, and weeks worth. We got it got that to $300,000 difference. Took $1.1 million out of it, but the public won't see hardly any less project than what they see out there. It's kind of like a recipe sometimes. A little less of this and a little more of that, and you can save money sometimes, and that's about what it boiled down to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have.
So that'll start soon.
Actually, as soon as we have the second reading on that, I'm expediting that through my office of getting the contractor scheduled for a pre-construction meeting. Normally, we have the second reading. We want to get going sooner, so we're working out our sequence of construction with the contractor here in the next week or so. We'll have the second reading next week, I believe, for the contract, but we're already working in that direction with the contractor. We would like to be working the 1st of June if all things fall together.
Good deal. Thank you. Commissioner Abraham, please.
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Jim Smith Contracting Company, LLC, for construction of the Olivet Church Road Improvement Project. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The City of Paducah hereby authorizes the mayor to execute an agreement with Jim Smith Contracting Company, LLC, in the amount of $6,380,137.04 for construction of the Olivet Church Road Improvement Project.
Second.
Okay, great. That's what you were talking about. Any questions for Rick? Okay. Commissioner Galt?
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance accepting the bid of McBride Mack, Inc. for sale to the City of one new 2015 front-loading refuse collection chassis and body for use by the solid waste collection system and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The City of Paducah accepts the bid of McBride Mack, Inc. in the amount of $228,830 for sale to the City of one new 2015 front-loading refuse collection chassis and body, and authorizes the mayor to execute a contract for same.
Second.
And this is part of your replacement program, or is this a new one?
This is part of the commercial replacement program. The front loader trucks are the trucks that have the forks in the front, and they pick the dumpster up and they dump it over the top of the cab. That's just trucks need to be replaced over time. They get wore out. They start costing us money and fleet maintenance. So we have a rotation of replacing trucks about every 7 years.
So it's a front loader for a front loader?
Excuse me?
A front loader for a front loader?
Yes. Yeah. One in, one out. One in, one out.
Side loaders, side for side for the next,
no.
next bid?
No, I'll let that. I won't get ahead of that. I'll let that be read, and then I'll explain that, I guess.
While I have the opportunity, I've told Rick this, but the driver that comes down our alley that picks up the dumpster, he is excellent. A lot of times I'll be in my kitchen window and watch him empty that dumpster, and I believe he could set it down on a fly. I mean, he can lift that up and place it back so carefully that we've got some good people working for Public Works.
We do.
Commend you.
I
don't know what his name is, but tell him he does a good job.
Refuse collection is one of the more, I guess, difficult jobs because it's just constant labor all day long. If you happen to be an individual that's riding a rear packer as opposed to operating levers in the cab, but that person who's riding the back of the refuse truck, he puts in a hard day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You usually have a smile, too.
You're going to get letters from people about flies.
Okay. Being mean to flies.
We'll have to start a refuse truck rodeo or something.
Yeah.
How good they really are.
There you go.
Actually, they do have those.
What?
They
do they have those?
They have those, and they also have snowplow rodeo.
They do it at the American Public Works Association.
Yeah.
So we've never done that?
Not through APWA, no. American Public Works Association, but yes, they do have those competitions.
Sign him up. Sign him up. Let's see what he got.
Commissioner Rhodes, please.
Okay, I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance accepting the bid of McBride Mac Incorporated for the sale to the city of one automated sidearm loader for use by the Solid Waste Division, Public Works Department, and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The city of Paducah accepts the bid of McBride Mac Incorporated in the amount of $249,555 for the sale to the city of one automated sidearm loader for use by the Solid Waste Division, Public Works Department, and authorizes the mayor to execute a contract for same.
Second.
Now, Commissioner Rhodes,
Okay,
I guess more addressing your
question. Is this a sidearm for a sidearm?
No. This is a sidearm for a rear packer.
All right, then, okay. Okay, well, I was under a different, okay.
Okay, and the reason for that is that we become more efficient, okay? Sidearm, as we look ahead in the future, we talked about efficiency if we were to pursue a curbside collection, okay? A sidearm truck can do anywhere, and it depends on this operator the mayor may be speaking about, can do anywhere from 750 to 900 totes or rollouts a day, and that's one driver, okay? Whereas a rear packer will do anywhere from 350 to 400 rollouts a day with two people on board. So we need to be, we're trying to improve our efficiency for those things to keep our cost down and keep our rates where they need to be for that. So as technology improves, we change with technology and with our efficiencies. So
which I think we would do irrespective of any changes in service going forward, correct, Rick?
Say that again.
That we would be doing this irrespective of
Yes, because right now we have two sidearm trucks that run every day, and we don't have a backup for that sidearm truck. So when one of those sidearm trucks goes down, you go back to those numbers, okay? One of my 900 can of truck went down, so now I've got to have something to come in and pick up the slack.
And, you have talked about garbage trucks. It's a smelly subject, but somebody's got to do it. If in thinking about is we maybe think in the future about curbside recycling, maybe. We, as I point out, we had the issue that we have 216 miles of streets and 100 miles of alleys, and if the idea is that the sidearm truck cannot go down the alleys, then we force those people to move their garbage and their recyclables to the street. Did we ever even look at the idea of maybe a rear-loading truck that had the split load where you can do recycling and garbage pickup in the alley?
This is a
75-25 split loader.
This is a much broader issue of which probably needs a whole lot more explanation than just this forum here with the purchase of a truck.
I guess all I'm saying, are we inextricably, do we still have, like the last discussion?
We still have rear packers.
And so we've not inextricably launched toward this one method, just like as Chris Black asked the question about RFPs and RFQs. So we still have time for discussion. And
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Why don't we just ask the question point blank? We're not going to force any changes here.
Not right now.
Anybody's.
Not right now, because, I mean,
this is just going to bring about more efficiency.
yeah, it's about efficiency, but then, it's also about decision making too. A truck may take 8 or 9 months to get here.
Right.
So, there's these things that we're trying to do, or we're trying to maintain, low rates. We're trying to maintain efficiencies, and that's where we are right now.
I have often wondered, Rick, why we don't have a sidearm pickup for 32nd Street. You're still using a rear packer there. It would be really easy to use a sidearm down through there.
Well,
that's your decision.
From our, there's a lot of things to look at for that, and as we, I guess, foster and kind of go through the process of the decisions you all may come to in the future, we want to be prepared, but in that preparedness, we also want to be as efficient as we can, and that's where we're at.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Wilson, please.
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the Finance Director to pay AES Environmental LLC for the disposal of household hazardous waste collected during the City-County Free Cleanup Day. This ordinance is summarized as follows: that the Finance Director is hereby authorized to pay AES Environmental LLC in the amount of $22,824.50 for the disposal of household hazardous waste collected during the City-County Free Cleanup Day.
Second.
It's routine, something we do annually with our Free Cleanup Day. So.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
City Manager's report.
Just a couple of things briefly. Happy to report that negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees local have wrapped up, and the union has ratified a proposed agreement, and that will be before you within the next meeting or two. So happy to say that it's a 3-year proposed agreement. Just want to mention, I'm remiss and say I should have said this last week, but there's a group called the Public Employees Roundtable, a large national group comprised of public sector employees. Last week, May 1st through the 7th, was the annual Public Service Recognition Week for all governmental employees at all levels. So just want to mention that, and hats off to all of the public employees in and around the Paducah area. And we have an executive session.
Okay, we have public comments. We have, what did I do with that? Here, Tom.
Yes.
If you'll come forward, please.
Dale, I'm sorry I couldn't meet with you today.
Oh, sure.
But sometime in the future I'd be fine. What I'm going to address tonight involves parking downtown. This 2-hour parking is a real problem. I'm proposing that you all look at a 4-hour parking permit for all people that come downtown. In addition to that, I would say that those people that live in apartments upstairs there be given some sort of sticker or registration so that they are not ticketed for being where they have to park when they've got apartments upstairs. I'm the manager of the Paducah Antique Mall at 407 Broadway. We are becoming a destination for people from Missouri, Illinois, all over the country that come through here. They want to see the quilt factory, the quilt museum. They want to see our flood wall, all of that. They want to stay in our restaurants. It's very difficult to have lunch and then do some shopping downtown and come back in 2 hours and find a ticket on your car. That doesn't say we want people to come here and visit. The 4-hour registration, or 4-hour parking, would eliminate a lot of that. Also, people like lawyers and others that have their offices downtown really don't have a convenient place to park. I understand that the parking lot behind Behavioral Management Services used to be a public parking lot and was sold when that building was taken over. That's excellent, but there needs to be parking available for those people that come in from outside the community. I would say for those that work downtown, the lawyers and such, some kind of registration sticker fee that would eliminate them from being ticketed for being over 2 hours outside their business and not having to roll the car forward 2 feet so that that yellow mark on the fella that the fella makes is out of line again. It's not a hard process. I think it's something that's needed. I know there's a lot of people downtown, businesses that are concerned with this. Some other thoughts that were brought to my attention today was the length of the yellow lines, non-parking areas along the U.S. Bank building. Are those in compliance, or what is that? Also on 4th Street, in front of some of the lawyers' offices, there seems to be an extended yellow there that could, maybe 1 or 2 places could be created there. I thank you for your time. Alan, you've got a lot of thought going on there, and I commend Rick for his ideas on the garbage truck. I used to work for a home insurance company and lost control. And the city of Owensboro was losing a lot of money for garbage people picking up cans and having supposed back injuries. The city at that time paid, in addition to the unemployment benefit, the city salary, made them whole. They eliminated that, and suddenly the back injuries reduced and more efficiency was gotten out of them. The back loader, the side loader, all of that are excellent ideas. Don't be afraid of it. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'd like to just mention, too, that the workman's comp classification for people that work on the side loaders is lower than the rear loading trucks. So
right.
Point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Gail, probably sometime after 11 o'clock on Monday, I would be able to meet.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol, good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to have an executive session tonight. Are there any mayor and commission comments tonight? Any comments?
Oh, no.
All right. We do have executive session tonight, so Richard, you have that?
I do. I move that the board go into closed session for discussion of matters pertaining to the following topics: future sale or acquisition of a specific parcel of real estate as permitted by KRS 61.8101B, and a specific proposal by a business entity where public discussion of the subject matter would jeopardize the location, retention, expansion, or upgrading of a business entity as permitted by KRS 61.8101G.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Kaler?
Aye. So we will not be coming back. So meeting's adjourned.
Against the executive session.